Thank you. Hyvä, good afternoon. Before I start my presentation, I would like to show you a brief video with some of the fundamental science and principles, which I will talk about later. Please.
9 billion people. The world's population will increase by 2 billion during the next generation. Feeding 9 billion people sustainably seems improbable, yet it can be done. The key to feeding the future is to boost agricultural productivity. Yara provides world-leading solutions for sustainable farming. The world needs to grow more food. But we can't keep clearing forests for farmland, and fresh water is quickly becoming scarce. We need green growth. The answer is efficiency. Yara's solutions increase food production from every acre of farmland and every drop of water used. Our local insight and innovative approach creates a value for farmers, Yara, and for society. By 2050, the world will need 70% more food than today. More food must come from emerging economies. Already, Brazil is an agricultural powerhouse, and Africa is set to follow. The solution is profitable and efficient farming. Yara is active in cross-sector partnerships at many levels, supporting sustainable agriculture by bringing knowledge, infrastructure, and investment. Climate change will reduce farming productivity. At the same time, agriculture is a driver of global warming, with land use change as the main culprit. The answer lies in productivity. While production of fertilizers contributes to the challenge, using fertilizers is vital to optimize yields, reducing land use change and overall emissions. Yara has reduced greenhouse gas emissions from its fertilizer production by half. The challenges posed by global megatrends, such as resource management, food security, and environmental issues, offer extensive business opportunities. Creating impact is Yara's framework for engaging in these opportunities that bridge business and societal interests. Solutions that create value both in our business and to society at large is Yara's competitive edge. We create value for shareholders while creating impact in society.
So, before talking about the solutions, let's just have a quick look at the challenge, or rather the challenges. The main one is the fact that our population is increasing. And when the population is expected to increase by 2 billion people over the next generation, we are going to need more food. However, the amount of arable land per person is dropping, and we are already using a lot of resources. And it will not be easy to use resources with the same pace as we have been doing historically. So we need to do better. We need to manage with less arable land available per person, less fresh water, and also emitting less greenhouse gases per unit of food which we produce. What is the solution? In broad terms, it's about producing higher yields in order to reduce deforestation, and it is about smarter farming. And smarter farming means using less resources, using less land, less water, and less nutrients per amount of food we produce. First, let's take a look at what we have achieved historically. Historically, the world has been able to increase crop supply over the last 45 years by 135%, while only increasing farmland by 27%. And that's a formidable achievement, which we should be proud of. If the world had to produce as much food without increasing productivity during this period, one would have had to chop down forest the size of Russia. And that would have been a tremendous environmental disaster, because that would have implied a greenhouse gas emission of in total 12 times the annual global emissions today, if we had not been able to increase productivity. If we put that into a graph, this is how it would look in terms of total emissions compared to what it actually has been with the increase in productivity. So an increase in productivity has historically created the solution for us. And the question now is, can this continue to be the solution also in the future? And we believe it is an important part of the solution, because there is still room for improvement. And let me go a little bit more in detail. This pie is the global greenhouse gas emissions today. And industry and fossil fuels, that's the big part, while almost 1/4 is linked to agriculture. So that means that the food and the agricultural products we consume today are responsible for a big part of annual greenhouse gas emissions. But there is one part which singles itself out as the dominant one, and that is land use change. Land use change is every year by far the most important agriculturally related greenhouse gas factor. Let's look at the challenge in a country which has quite a big challenge. Tanzania in Africa. Tanzania has a land area which is larger than any European country except Russia. It's a huge country, and you only see it when you look at the globe and not on a map, because then it looks small, but when you look at the globe, you'll see how big it really is. And in Tanzania, the expectation is that the population will move from approximately 45 million people today to approximately 140 in the year 2050. That's a formidable population increase. And if they were going to feed those people with today's agricultural practice, the amount of farmland would have to increase by approximately 4 times. And that would be an environmental disaster. But the good thing, in a way, is that today they have quite a poor agricultural yield. The maize yield in Tanzania, and maize is the most important food crop in Tanzania, is only approximately 1.5 tons per hectare. And Yara has shown through 5 years of trials in Tanzania that it is possible to achieve in an environmentally friendly way a yield of at least 6 tons per hectare, which would mean that you could actually feed this population with the farmland which is in use today. And this picture is from one of the demo trials, where you see the traditional way of producing maize on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side you find an approach based on balanced fertilization and other modern techniques, which enables the farmer to get 4 times the same yield. In order to succeed, we need to work together, not only fertilizer companies and farmers, but we need to work together the entire value chain. One of the things which we believe is important going forward is working with partners in the food chain. We have mentioned here 2 companies which we work with, PepsiCo on potatoes and Nestlé on coffee. I'll show one example of that. But we also work together with, here in Finland, for example, Valio, which is a dairy company, in order to make sure that the solutions which are presented to farmers are the solutions which gives the best profitability for the farmer, but also in an environmentally friendly way. If we take the example with Nestlé, in Vietnam, they produce the largest amount of Robusta coffee in the world. And that's the type of coffee which becomes the Nescafé freeze-dried coffee. But Nestlé has had big problems getting both enough coffee and coffee at the right quality in Vietnam, despite the fact that they are using too much fertilizer, but they are using the wrong type. They are, for example, using too much nitrogen, and they are using the wrong type of nitrogen. So in a cooperation between Yara, the World Economic Forum, Nestlé, and the Vietnamese Ministry of Agriculture, we have developed a program and a recommendation which enables a far better productivity for the Vietnamese coffee farmers and a better quality than what they have been able to produce previously. Let's move a bit closer to home. In Europe, there are some surprising facts about our agriculture. One thing which has surprised me is the fact that Europe today is a large net importer of agricultural products, and it is increasing every year. That is a paradox, that an amount of land of 35 million hectares, equal to the area of Germany, is today being used outside of Europe to produce agricultural products which we consume in Europe. And by doing that, we are actually contributing to deforestation outside of Europe. We are exporting one of our problems to other countries. And when we then know that European farmers have the most efficient and cleanest agriculture in the world, and when I say clean, I mean with the lowest emissions, that is a paradox, because we have the potential to produce more in Europe instead of exporting the problem. Let's have a look at what has been done in Europe, because the achievements of, for example, some of you who are in this room are quite impressive. Nutrient use efficiency, and as illustrated here, nitrogen use efficiency has improved tremendously over the last 20 years. What this chart means is that 1 kilogram of fertilizer, which is used today, is actually producing approximately 50% more crop than what it did 25 years ago or 20 years ago. And that is quite an achievement. And I'll say more about how that has been achieved later. In addition to producing more crop, the additional benefit is that it means less emissions. Because the problem, if your crop is not able to use all of the nutrients you add as a farmer, is that you get emissions. You get vaporization to the air, or leaching or runoff to nearby waters. So in parallel with increasing the efficiency, reducing the costs for the farmer, you are also benefiting the environment. So today, Europe has the highest nitrogen use efficiency in the world. And why shouldn't we then be the ones who produce a big part of the gap today between consumption and production of agricultural products? So one reason for this discrepancy is the fact that in Europe we have become much better at balanced fertilization. And this is quite easy, because just like humans need a balanced diet, balance between proteins, carbohydrates, fat, and also vitamins and minerals, also our crops, they need to have a balance. And if you only give them nitrogen, then you don't get the best possible yield. And in addition to that, the crop is not able to consume all of the nitrogen, because what it needs is actually, for example, phosphates or potash or sulfur or magnesium or manganese or something else. It's only by giving the proper balanced fertilization that you are able to have full uptake of all of the nutrients and get the best possible yield from your land. That is both the most profitable way of doing farming, and it is the type of farming with the least emissions. In addition to balanced fertilization, we are now having access to much more technology than in the past, and there is more to come. One illustration, which I think is now becoming quite well known in Finland already, is the N sensor, which is a tractor-mounted sensor measuring how much nitrogen the crop needs, automatically adjusting the fertilizer spreader at the back of the tractor so that you don't add more than what the crop needs. Very often, this tool enables a farmer to use 10% less nitrogen and getting a 15% increase in the crop yield. Other technologies are smartphone applications where you can, by looking at pictures, getting an indication of what type of nutrient deficiency or vegetable or other types of crop might have. And there are a number of other tools as well which are available and under development. And these are tools which we call smart farming or precision farming, which generally are not very expensive, and they help the farmer get the maximum utilization of the nutrients which are added. Finally, a word about our own emissions, because we are of course also an emitter of greenhouse gases, and we are working hard to make sure we produce fertilizer with the lowest possible emissions. The most important innovation which we have been able to make in order to reduce our emissions is the catalyst which you see on the picture. It's a catalyst for a nitric acid plant, and based on that catalyst and some other innovations, we have been able to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by more than 50% during the last 10 years. Because laughing gas N2O is a very powerful greenhouse gas, and we have been able to virtually eliminate emissions of that gas. I'd like to repeat the three most important takeaways and facts which I think are worth to remember. I mentioned to you previously that first of all, Europe today is a large net importer of agricultural products, which generally is unnecessary. We have the opportunity to become more efficient and have a more productive agriculture. The other factor is that Europe has today the most efficient and environmentally friendly agriculture of all continents, so we should use that competitive advantage. And the third fact, which I'd like to leave you with, which is a little bit of a company promotion, is the fact that European fertilizer producers today also are the fertilizer producers having the lowest emissions from their own production. If you compare, for example, with the fertilizer production in China, they have 3 times the greenhouse gas emissions because they base most of their production on coal and old technology. So with that slight promotion at the end, I thank you for your attention.